Blog Talk Radio.
Let's go. It's time to attack. We the smartest, fastest, and most vicious. We gonna put them in their place. You coming out here? We're gonna play.
Andy's gonna fire deep. Puts it there inside the 10.
Another Superman.
Good route by Edelman. Now they come on a reverse to the near side and a quick run.
What's up, NFL football fans out there, and welcome to another edition of Cut 2 with McMillan and Purdue, the show where we talk nothing but NFL football. I'm one of your hosts, Dev McMillan. I'm at the round table with my partner in crime. We got Fred Purdue in the building. Fred, I guess this is the funeral edition for my Eagles and the party must go on edition for your New England Patriots. What's going on, good brother?
What's going on, man? For a while, I sweated and was like, uh-oh. And then after about a drive, I was like, yeah, we're back.
Yeah, it was a quick sweat. You went to the gym for a 5-minute workout.
Yeah, pretty much.
I got a long workout, and at the end of the workout, I tripped and fell the hell off of the treadmill. Things happen, but you know, I'm still proud of my boys. Last show, that was my last opportunity to call them the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles, and for almost an entire year, it felt really nice to do. Never had that opportunity before, so I'm grateful. Not mad at the boys, but let's get right into some things. Let's get into our quick slants segment of the show. We're just going to talk a few things briefly, and the first of those I want to ask you about is Kyler Murray, who has made the decision to declare himself for the NFL draft. Everybody was, will he or won't he? Because he had the offer, on the table from the Oakland Athletics. For a minute there, before he made his official intentions, he was basically saying to the A's, if you guys give me $15 million guaranteed, then I'll say F out of here to football. Of course, that did not happen, so he will be entering to the NFL draft. You think he made the best decision?
I don't. I really don't. I mean, the NFL, when it comes to the quarterback position, it's not good for short quarterbacks. He's got a good release, he's got a good arm, but when I look at him and when I really watch him, I see really good quarterback, but way too small to play in this league. In the Big 12,
right.
That's great. Possibly in the SEC, that's great. The Big 10, even better. Pac-12, even better. But this isn't college football, and those throwing lanes aren't open. And I got a preview of what his NFL career could possibly look like in the first playoff game against Alabama. And when I saw him in that playoff game, he looked like he was struggling. He had all day to throw. Early on, you'd see him have a good offensive line, but when the pressure gets dialed up, then he seems to, his height comes into it. He has quick feet. Love his feet. Better. I mean, he's quick as a hiccup, as some of us college football folks say. But when I watch him on film, I don't see many traits that help him in the NFL, and a lot of it is just physical stature. And
see, for me,
you get
okay, go ahead.
When you compare him to a Russell Wilson's jacked. He's small. He's 5'10", but he's jacked. He's like 220 pounds. When you look at Drew Brees is a master thrower of the football. When I look at Kyler Murray, I see a slot receiver who can really throw. He can really sling it, but he's so small. He might be 5'8".
Now, that's the thing, of course, like you said, when you talk Kyler Murray, those two names always come up, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, which is hard to do, and it puts a lot of pressure on him. I mean, you're naming two Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, so it's not the norm. It's the exception. So you really can't make your comparisons to somebody on the exception. With that being said, I still think, he made the smarter decision. And the reason I say that is because at this point, he's not a surefire, he's not a sure thing in either sport. You know what I mean? But are rumblings out there that, somebody might drink the Kool-Aid and take him in the first round of the NFL draft. So at this point, when we're not viewing him as a surefire, in either sport, we're looking at salary. So as a first-round pick, he can make a certain amount of money, which is why he asked the Oakland A's for that type of guarantee up front in the first place, because if it outweighs what I can do going the first round there in the NFL draft, then I'll come over there and do that. But that sounds like the negotiation of somebody who also knows that they're a surefire in either sport. So I think, he'll have time to prove himself in the NFL, whereas baseball is a different monster. There's a different pathway that you have to take, unless you were a phenom from a certain age and you just know that baseball was in your future. For somebody who's on the fence in two sports like this, I think the sport that we know him from, the sport that he won the highest honor in, is the smart route, because you don't know if you have a long-term future in either sport. But I do tell you this, starting from where he is right now, 3 years in football is going to give you more money than 3 years in baseball. Now, in the long run, if he was willing to take that gamble, we all know the kind of money that you could make in baseball if you turned out to be, even just more than an average player, just a good player versus being a very good player in the NFL. We know the kind of money he could make. But for him, I think he made the right decision for it. And the right decision to me doesn't mean he's going to be good in the NFL. It just means, okay, just to start, let's get you some guaranteed money. Let's get you some upfront money. And I think football is what's going to do that for him, if that's where his head is,
And for me, you can always go back and play baseball now after your body's been broken up. And we know quarterbacks don't get hit it as much. But the type of quarterback he is, where he likes to take off and he runs around, let's say his career is the typical, hey, you're the average guy, you turn out to get 3 to 4 years in the NFL, heck, even 5, and you don't take a ton of hits, you're still a decent athlete. He can go back and play baseball, but the interest may not be as much versus now, where he's just a supreme athlete playing center field. And baseball, baseball players come in all sizes and shapes versus football, where football position-wise, there are requirements essentially, unless you are out of the norm.
All right, so, we'll see what happens to him, man. Good luck to him. And whatever he does, he seemed to have chosen his path, but just in case you change your mind, man, good luck on either path. Let's talk about a coaching change real quick before we talk about some of the things that happened in the divisional round. Gary Kubiak has been signed by the Minnesota Vikings in a quote-unquote senior offensive role. He's going to be the assistant head coach, but sort of an offensive advisor. The thing about this signing is that it came with sort of a package deal, because his son, Clint Kubiak, will serve as quarterback coach, and Brian Pariani will be tight ends coach. I think there was one more, Rick Dennison. He's going to serve as the offensive line coach. This is all well and good. Kubiak offensively, I think, is a good hire for pretty much any team. But where does this leave Kevin Stefanski, Fred? Because it seems like you're basically just usurping all of his power. You're just bringing in people, adding people to his staff, and then the first edition, you put somebody like Gary Kubiak, who really it seems like he's going to be over Stefanski as the offensive coordinator. So how much power does Stefanski actually have in this situation if you're going to bring Kubiak in as a assistant head coach and offensive advisor? You're going to bring in a quarterback's coach of his choice, a tight ends coach of his choice, and an offensive line coach of his choice. Then what the hell is Kevin Stefanski there for?
The NFL, the only league I've ever seen where coaches are brought in with titles only, and they mean nothing.
Snatch your power from you quick.
Yeah, it's Gary Kubiak, clearly the guy. They're the guy they want. And he's kind of like that offensive coordinator in waiting, or he's that offensive coordinator. He has the power. He's the play caller. Or in a game, hey, I suggest you run this, and you better run it. Or, or when things go bad, we have a fall guy and Gary Kubiak comes in and saves the day. I'm just putting out all the narratives that'll come out in about a year from now, and then he'll be the guy to fix Kirk Cousins in this offense. I'm just putting it out there so you guys aren't surprised. But for me, when I look at this, I'm like, this is a good move by the Vikings. It's just, why not just go get Gary Kubiak before you did all the other stuff?
Yeah, it's one of those situations where you figure they're just, at this point, they don't want to embarrass the family. They don't want to demote him. But we know what it is. Like, the writing's on the wall. So he definitely won't have a long leash, because you got, one of the better offensive coordinators of the past decade and a half, 2 decades, sitting there, not even behind him, but kind of in front of him. So this is weird, but it's not normal. Like, it's not like we haven't seen this type of thing before. It's the type of power struggle where they may let Stefanski hang himself if he can't hang. No pun intended. If he can't hang, they might let him hang himself. So what do you think it will do for the offense and for Kirk Cousins?
I think it'll help in the passing game. When I look at Kirk Cousins, you know how I feel about First Cousins. I'm not big on him as far as a thrower of the football. He's a smart guy, but he just doesn't have it. The good quarterbacks, the Brady, Brees, Rodgers, guys like that, they have it. They're able, technically sound. They know everything about their team. They have that intangible. Kirk Cousins is an average quarterback. He's average in the sense of he can't make the big throws. He has guys his guys don't fight for him. You're going at it with your own teammates on the sideline. Save that for the locker room after we lost. Don't do it right now. He was supposed to be the savior for this team that had just a ridiculously good defense. And, I don't think any of that has happened. But I think you'll get a quarterback coach, essentially. You really have a very good quarterback coach and a guy that can design plays to help him and this offense that has a very good set of skill guys. But the offensive line is the problem. And unless you fix that, you're going to have to come out with quick throws, running game. You're going to have to do a lot of scheming and a lot of smoke and mirrors to make things look a lot better than what they really are.
Man, kind of reminds me of a divisional round game. The number 1 seed was a little desperate like that and had to kind of win the game on some smoke and mirrors type stuff. So, yeah. It's a shame that they ended up doing it, so I guess none of that matters. But let's go into that. Let's get a division round recap real quick, and let's start with let's go into games in the order that they were played. Of course, on Saturday, the Colts and the Arrowhead to see the Chiefs. The Chiefs did not do an Andy choke, at least not yet, and they handled the Colts rather easily, 31-13 in Arrowhead. What stood out to you in this game?
Pat Mahomes is just a beast. He's scary good. On the other side, I got what the Colts were trying to do. I feel them. I feel you. I understand. You want to keep Pat Mahomes on the sideline. You want to run the football. But when you're not running the football and then, Andrew Luck didn't have the best game ever, that's a recipe for disaster. I mean, the Chiefs completely took away the run game. The Colts ran the ball a grand total of 14 times. And Andrew Luck was a part of that. So non-quarterback runs, that's 12 times on the ground. That's how quickly the Chiefs got up on these guys. And, Pat Mahomes, for the first time in a long time, didn't throw a touchdown pass, but they had 4 rushing touchdowns. 4. Let me put that in perspective for you. 4 rushing touchdowns. And we said, they're going to be they're going to have a problem running the ball. No. Damian Williams and Tyreek Hill made things very, very, very easy for him.
Right, and I'm gonna give some props to Kansas City defense because that's the unit that hasn't played well all season. I think they stepped up for this playoff game, and if you can get them just at that level with what they already have on offense, this team is going to be a bear to deal with going forward. First for your Patriots, and if they can get past them, for anybody who would meet them in the Super Bowl. So I think we are looking forward to a pretty good AFC Championship game, unless the Chiefs defense comes out and just goes back into their regular season form. Then it's going to have to hinge on the arm of the first-year starter Mahomes to be in a shootout with, the legendary Tom Brady. And that's not, not to say that Mahomes and the offense can't do it, but that's not a recipe that Andy Reid nor any Kansas City Chiefs fan for success going into a game of magnitude. We've seen them do it all season. But at some point, you sit back and like, this guy still is a first-year starter. You know what I'm saying? As the lights get brighter, as the stage goes up, gets bigger, you know what I'm saying? You would like for your defense to step it up and help them, especially starting last week because it's only a maximum of 3 games left in your season. Can we step it up for 3 games? Not asking you to match what the offense is doing because that's probably not possible. But if they could play like they did against the Colts, it could be interesting moving forward for these guys.
What if I told you the Kansas City Chiefs led the NFL in sacks as a team for the 2018 regular season? Would you believe me?
I mean, it wouldn't be difficult to believe, because there's always been teams that can get after the quarterback, but
I mean, this is
like what else you got?
Chicago. I mean, when I saw that stat, I said, no, that can't be right. That can't be right.
It sounds weird. It definitely
sounds odd. It sounds odd, but they get after the quarterback. They get after the quarterback pretty well. Dee Ford and Justin Houston, Alan Bailey, and those guys in the middle of that defense, they get after quarterbacks. Chris Jones had a sack in, I think, 13 games this year, 13 straight games. So when you add all of that together, I can see it, but it's just the way their defense just gives up points after points after points. Right. It's the back end of their defense that's really the problem.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can get to the quarterback, you can get after them, but can you get them off the field so they don't score points? Like, I would be curious to see how many of these sacks came on third down. You know what I mean? It's a passing league, so you can get early down sacks because it's a passing league. Like, how many of those sacks are at important times when you want to get them off the field so they don't score again and force your offense to scores? Like I said, they played well, and if you can put it, some defenses do that. Like, look at the Colts back when they won the Super Bowl. Like, their defense was the much maligned unit of their team. Once they got to the playoffs, their defense, I'm not going to use the word carry, but the defense kind of led the way when my man Manning in the offense didn't look like world beaters the way they did earlier in the season. But that's great that a defense can do that because, last year you look and it was kind of flip. I mean, the Eagles' offense was good all season last year, but the defense was devastating, all last season. They get into the playoffs. They have 2 great games in the first 2 rounds. You get into the Super Bowl, and the defense decides to take a damn game off. So it's like when that happens, you need that scale to be able to. You need the other unit to be able to take up that slack, and I think they can do it. I think they could take up the slack since they're not being asked to do it over a marathon anymore. It's sprint time. All right, so yeah, that game wasn't as interesting as it could have been. There was no big Andrew Luck-led comebacks going on this time. Then we had the Rams welcoming the Cowboys into their house. Cowboys fans, as everybody does, kind of over that stadium. Might have been like a 50-50 split. Didn't help either way. The Rams leave with an 8-point win. And, if you watch the game, it really didn't seem like it was that close. It didn't seem 8-point threatening type of a win. What were your thoughts on this one?
This game, what I saw in this game really told me Jared Goff, he's one of those guys that just, if you put the weapons around him and they're hitting, it's good. What I saw was C.J. Anderson revived his career for at least one game. They saved Todd Gurley because they knew they could run the football on this defense.
Right. That was kind of disrespectful.
Yeah, it's very disrespectful.
That's disrespectful that they sprung C.J.,
I got to see more of the second half than the first half. I was actually at an all-star game, a high school all-star game that I was already committed to earlier on. But when I got a chance to see in the second half, and I'm just sitting there watching the numbers, and I'm like, well, Todd Gurley's not getting the ball. That's a problem. But then I saw the long run he had for like 30 yards. He had that. And I saw a 37-year-old left tackle in Andrew Whitworth just literally hauling butt downfield and making blocks on guys, sealing guys off. And I'm like, well, that's an effort play. That's a statement play. And you see certain things. It may not be the guy that's carrying the ball, but you see little things throughout the game that say, yeah, they wanted a little bit more. This game said everything about what Dak is. Dak is a quarterback that needs a running game. He needs Amari Cooper. Marcus Peters played like the Marcus Peters I remember. Dallas just looked like they were completely outmatched. I wanted to see some more from Sue because I felt like he wasn't worth the price of admission going into the year, especially with all the hype. He kind of lived up to that in this game, and they pretty much shut that Dallas offense down. I mean, it was ugly going. Towards the end, it was like you knew they didn't want to tackle anybody at that point. They took the will from that Cowboys team. And, that offense isn't like the super high-flying offense we saw last year, but if you notice, they're grinding it out a little bit more. They're trusting their running back. They're trusting their offensive line. And the only thing I still don't like, and it's probably going to be a career thing about Todd Gurley, is he runs like a small person. He doesn't like contact. He tries to skirt away from contact versus just putting his shoulder down and just running through a guy. But other than that, that was as good of a performance as I've seen from that Rams team.
Yeah. All right. So, I don't have much to add to that one. Zeke probably shouldn't have had that Chick-fil-A before the game, but that's a whole different story. The internets aren't being kind to him about that one. They're letting him have it about that one. Let's talk about the Sunday games, and I guess Sunday would be considered the varsity games. Your Patriots welcomed the Chargers in the Foxborough, dispatched of them pretty quickly. 41-28 doesn't even tell half the story. Really.
The score wasn't
a lot of garbage
time. Beating that game was.
Yeah, a lot of garbage time points for the Chargers. Still kudos to my man, Phillip Rivers. He was obviously playing in pain. Not to say that had anything to do with them losing, because that pain came after the pain had already come, if you know what I mean. What were your thoughts on this one? You have to hit him with the Rudy Tomjanovich. Never underestimate the heart of a champion.
For me, when I saw this game, I said, okay, first possession, the Patriots go down. It takes them almost half the quarter. Not only are they throwing the football, but they're running the football, and they're running it 4 yards here, 5 yards here, 8 yards here, 7 yards there. And I'm sitting there like, okay, this is a statement drive. Okay, Brady is a little there. These guys are fresh. And then it was 7-0, and then there's the busted coverage by Stephon Gilmore. I'm like, oh, here we go. And then it was just touchdown, Patriots touchdown, Patriots touchdown, Patriots touchdown. I mean, I don't think they punted until the second half. And it was just Tom Brady looked every single time people, and we know how the talking heads are. Everyone like in the narrative is Tom Brady's too old and he can't do what he's doing, and then he comes out and just surgically picks a team apart. And that to me showed everything about this game. They took away the run. They took away Keenan Allen. That whole 7 DBs thing, that was completely done. And they said, look, if you're going to bring 7 DBs out, those DBs who are not used to playing in the box, per se, they're going to have to meet up with a 320-pound guard, and they're going to get run into the ground. I mean, that was the game plan. And New England does what they have to do. They morph into the offense or morph into the defense that they have to get in. And not many teams can do that. Really, I think they're the only team that can do that. They've game planned for the team they're playing versus just rolling out what we do. And Tom Brady was surgical. I mean, completely surgical.
Yeah. I mean, that's why when we do our pick-em, especially around this time of the year, you rarely hear me, going against the Patriots. Man, I just think, as much as we clown and all that kind of stuff, Bill Belichick is the best who's ever done it. And going up against a Belichick coach team after a bye, and I don't even know what his regular season after a bye record is. I think Andy holds the reputation for that. I don't know if he holds the actual, best record. But, I don't think that's as important as the bye that the Patriots pretty much always get. And that's a first-round bye. And then a lot of times they get that AFC championship to Super Bowl bye. It's difficult to beat this man when he has extra time to prepare. And then they come out in a game where so many talking heads, so many fans gave the Chargers a legitimate chance at an upset. It's not disrespect to the Patriots, even though I didn't pick them. I thought it was legitimate. The Chargers are a very good football team. So even though, they were given this huge chance at an upset, because all of the upset components go in their favor. We always want to talk about Tom Brady's age. We want to talk about the talent disparity and all of this kind of stuff. But you give this man, Bill Belichick, an extra week to prepare for a team, and it's going to be very difficult for somebody to beat that person. So I think there's something like, I had the stat because I actually asked for it the other day, but they're, I want to say 11-1 after a first round bye. And of course, they have the 3 losses in the Super Bowl. So you add on another 5. I don't know. It's something crazy like 16-4 with playoff buys, and that's ridiculous, man. That is absolutely ridiculous. So you kind of have to give kudos to freaking Tom Coughlin and even Doug Peterson for being able to beat this dude, in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
After having these damn buys. So I don't know. It's hard for me to pick against them. When we do our picks this week, it might be a little bit of a different situation because both of these coaches, and they've played chess with each other before. Both of these coaches the same amount of time to, basically go head to head and do their thing. But I'm just not picking against Bill Belichick with a bye. I don't care who he's playing. But great season for the San Diego Chargers. Great season for Phillip Rivers. You're getting up there in age, Phil. One of these days, you got to get over that hump, or it's never going to happen for you. But that was pretty much two Hall of Fame quarterbacks going at it in that game. Phillip Rivers.
I'm 8-0 against Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, behind the 8 ball immediately. Not much you can do about that. All right, so let's go to the last game of the weekend, and that was the NFC divisional round game versus the Eagles, the 6-seeded Eagles versus the number 1 seed, the New Orleans Saints. Now, this game started out wonderfully for the Philadelphia Eagles. Undermanned, you had your 4th string running back, Smallwood, running pretty well, doing the thing. Offense moving up and down the field. Defense actually getting to Drew Brees a little bit and stopping what they were doing early in the game. But these games are long, man. You do that against a team like this that early in the game, you kind of know that you're in for it. And probably the most pivotal moment of this game, Fred, I would say is, and it's obvious, and not just I would say, is the punt. After Doug Peterson didn't take the yards on the penalty to make it 3rd and 11, third and 11, he made it 4th and 1, and they faked the punt, used Hill to run it up the middle. From that moment on, their offense got into a groove. They got comfortable, and they were able to move the ball up and down the field to the tune of 20 unanswered points. Would you agree that that was the turning point of the game? You know, besides the fact that the Eagles' defensive backs can't catch a hold in the winter when the ball is thrown right to them? There were 2 pick sixes
definitely
to be had.
Yeah. For me, one of the things I knew was going to happen, the master of the trick play. I mean, for all of the Philly specials that you guys give out throughout the year, I just knew Sean Payton was going to pull a rabbit out of his hat. How'd you not know? And guess what? Even when you're prepared for it, you still just can't stop it.
Right. But everybody I was chatting with during the game, you know, when that happened, I'm telling them, like, Taysom Hill's lined up where he's lined up in pump formation. Like, you kind of, if you've watched this at all this season, you kind of had to know that was a possibility on that play. And it completely changed the momentum of the game. Because if they don't get that there, you know what I'm saying? If they not even if they punt, if they run that fake and they don't get that, the Eagles are staring 30 yards, you know, to the end zone for another score. The defense did enough to hold them off if that was the case. I mean, not that we would have known that the defense would have held them up because there was injuries across the board. You had Fletcher Cox in and out of the game with an injury. You had Jason Peters, who left the game with an injury. Their second best offensive lineman, Brandon Brooks, leaves the game with an injury. You come into the game, like I said, toting it with your 4th-string running back. So like that, they couldn't. Last season, the guys that were injured, the guys that you were missing, were the best of their particular units, but it wasn't as many people as it was, you know, this time around. So they couldn't overcome that against a hot Saints team. But I tell you this, the Saints were sweating at the end of that game. When they missed that field goal, I'm sitting here like, I don't really believe in this, but the Eagles might be a team of destiny. 2 weeks in a row, somebody misses a field goal. They're marching down the field, and the person on your team with arguably the best hands on your team drops a pass that goes right into the defender's arm.
35 straight targets in the postseason. 35 straight targets in the playoffs.
This man was a vacuum.
And the one that you
around
need,
the ball.
you missed.
The one that you need. Probably the easiest one. Every catch he's made has been at a higher level of difficulty than that. Maybe he was just used to it not being that easy. Because he's not the fastest guy. He's not separating, like some of the burners in the league. So maybe he's somebody being on his damn back.
He's a 50-50.
Right. Maybe he's used to somebody just being on his back and he got a catch like he has on a backpack or something. I don't know. He was devastated. If you're an Eagles fan, you're going to be upset. And, some of that anger is going to go towards Alshon Jeffrey. But for how he's played in the postseason, what he did for the team last year in the postseason, you could only be but so mad at Alshon Jeffrey because if not for some of his big catches, you're not in this situation in the first place. But damn, did that hurt, Fred. You know me. We talked all season on this show and on the War Room. And you know me. All of these years, I saw my first Super Bowl championship at the beginning of the season. What did I say? This team could go 0-16, and I wouldn't give 2 Fs. But they tricked Fred. They tricked me, Fred. They tricked me into Karen, man. They tricked me into Karen. They get into the playoffs, one, when they weren't supposed to. They get past the first round when they weren't supposed to. You come out like gangbusters against the number 1 seed when they weren't supposed to. They tricked me, Fred. They tricked me into caring. So it's like at the end of that game, my evening wasn't as good as it would have been if I was still in the mindset of, hey, man, we just won the Super Bowl. I don't give a hell what happens. They tricked me, man. They tricked me into a bad night, but I'm good now. It wasn't.
Now you see what it's like every year for me, knowing, especially when you've won it. You know, you come back.
Everybody gives you their best shot.
Everybody gives you their best shot, and the fact that, you know, when you're there, let's say you see your team, you're objective about your team, and you say, man, this team isn't all really the best team. Like I looked at this year's Patriots team, I said, this team isn't. We just came off the Super Bowl, and I don't really see this team as being a really great team. But we're still New England, so we'll be there. It's just who's going to bow down to us, and if they bow down to us, how far can we go? And, you know, this is one of those things. Now you got a taste of what we've been going through for years. I hope you enjoyed it because, you know, now you have real questions. Do you pay Nick Foles and keep Carson Wentz? Do you pay Nick Foles $25 million and keep Carson Wentz and shop him, or keep him and then just have the most expensive quarterback situation in the world? Or do you let one of them go? And who do you let go?
Well, that question has already been answered. Actually, it was answered right before we got on air. The Eagles have already put out things publicly. Carson Wentz is our quarterback moving forward. There's no need to discuss that. Now, what's going to happen with Nick Foles is a totally different thing. Like, are they going to make him this ridiculously paid backup? Are they going to, you know, let him go off into the wind? I keep telling you, though. I'm telling anybody who listens, man, I really don't think Nick Foles is 100% committed to football right now. I think he was 100% committed to the Philadelphia Eagles organization and the city of Philadelphia to be, you know, there when called upon and when needed. But when you listen to this guy talk, you know he's a really nice dude. The stuff that he says makes you think, like, I don't think this dude cares too much about whether he comes back to play football again or not. Because the fact is, Andy Reid kind of got him off of the scrap in the first place when he had already basically called it quits. And then, you know, he left with Doug Peterson. The rest is history. I don't know if it's revitalized him to the point where he wants to do more, or just revitalized him to the point where, I'm happy with my life now. I'm content with my football career now. So just mark my words, because I haven't seen anybody else say this. So if he does happen to quit, you know, like my partner did say that. But I just listened to him, and it just doesn't seem like he's 100% committed. And that's not a bad thing. Like you can.
I mean, he's done everything he needs to do to be
right. Like, what else is there to do?
I mean,
right.
You've achieved the greatest heights.
Right, unless you're hard pressed to prove to somebody that as a starter outside of a Andy Reid, Peterson led offense that you can be, you know, one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Unless you want to prove that, fine. I just don't think that's in him for him to want to prove. Like, he's been to the pinnacle. like what else is there?
He's already won a Super Bowl, and he did it.
And I don't think
very high level.
Right, and I don't think Nick Foles is about the money, so that's why I say, like, I don't really think he's pressed. But we shall see. So, real quick, because we got to get out of here in a minute, let's go to our Pick'em segment, and we're going to pick NFC and AFC championship games that are coming up this Sunday. Let's start first with the NFC matchup. Of course, we have the Rams and the Saints. This is pretty much the NFC matchup that everyone expected in the first place. My Super Bowl pick is still alive in the Rams. My AFC pick, don't even ask. So what do you see happening in this one? Another shootout, or do the Rams take the blueprint that suddenly seems like has been put out there for the Saints since, you know, that matchup against the Cowboys? Like, they haven't been flying as high as they started the season flying. And that's normal. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't go through the whole season like that. Shout out to the Chiefs. but it's kind of normal. But it seems like the Cowboys have put something out there, and teams have been playing them much tougher. But you have Drew Brees, who's resilient, and he can go through some bumps and bruises and still win a game. What do you see in this one?
I think it's hard to beat a team twice in a year. I think Drew Brees, his arm isn't really – he doesn't have that extra little bit of oomph to that deep ball that he normally does. If you notice, they're relying a lot on the run game, a lot of Alvin Kamara, a lot of Mark Ingram. The Michael Thomas show is still intact. Probably best receiver in the league right now. No disrespect to my guy Julio Jones. No disrespect to AB, but this guy might be the best receiver in the league. Defense took a big hit against your Eagles. Sheldon Rankins has if I remember correctly, it was a torn Achilles, and that might be a problem. He's done. So that's good. And he was the rock in the middle of your defense. For that reason, if Todd Gurley has a big game, I just don't see it, how you can overcome that. But I'm still taking the Saints. They have home field advantage. It's hard to win in New Orleans, in that dome, loud, the crazies that they have, the Who Dat Nation. I mean, you have all of that. And then Sean Payton is one of the best play callers, if not the best in the league. I don't think
Who Dat Nation,
they learned –
they showed their ass last week because they forced the Eagles into that early timeout where, personally, if I was Doug Peterson in that early timeout in the second half, I would have just taken the penalty. But it kind of came back to bite them a little bit. Like, that could have played a part at the end of that game. So, for me, I think it's going to be difficult to have the Saints against the ropes like that 2 weeks in a row in their own home. But I think the Rams have a bit more weaponry offensively and defensively right now than the Philadelphia Eagles. So if there's any team in the NFC that can do it, it'll be them. This pick is mainly just me sticking with my Super Bowl, still believing in it, not necessarily because I 100% believe in it against the Saints. I'm going to pick the Rams to advance to Super Bowl.
I got to go with the Saints. It's hard to go against a team like the Saints at home. The way they dismantled the Rams the first time is probably going to be very, very similar. My Super Bowl pick, if we're just trying to go back, it was the Rams versus the Patriots. So we'll get, instead of the old guy versus the young guy, and I'm kind of tipping my hand to the next one, but it's going to be the old guy versus the old guy. So
go ahead, won't you? Go ahead, won't you? New England versus the Chiefs. Who you got?
All right, so there's going to be a nice little Arctic blast, according to the National Weather Service, and we know how Tom Brady, for some reason, plays so much better, for whatever reason, in the cold. I think this game is going to come down to the defense, not the offense. Patriots are running the football really, really well. Tony Michel had over 100 yards. Gronk didn't really have a huge impact in the passing game, only one catch for like 20-some yards. But he was so effective in the run game. Between him and Trent Brown, the left tackle, those guys were just mauling people. And I think that's what the Chiefs don't really do well at. If they can keep – the run game will keep those 52 sacks that they led the league with off of Tom Brady. Give me the Patriots to win this one. I'm not picking against my team anymore. I did that one time, and it bit me in the butt. So, I'm taking my team.
All right, and you know why you don't. This time I'm going to go out on man. I think the Chiefs are really flying high right now. Like I said, what the Chiefs don't want to do is the defense not show up and the giving mode as far as points go. What they don't want to do is get to a shootout with Tom Brady and the Patriots. For some reason, and I don't know why, because it was one game out of the many that they gave up points in, out of the many this season they actually gave up points. They didn't give up too many this time. But for some reason, I'm thinking maybe something clicked with this defense, and they know that, like I said, it's the marathon is basically over. It's down to a sprint. They can pick up the offense a little bit and allow them some cushion. So I'm gonna go on the Chiefs. I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs on this one. I just think we're gonna see some new blood.
You're not on my team
in the Super Bowl. I think we're gonna see some new blood in the Super Bowl, Rams versus Chiefs, and we can get an epic rematch, like the game that they played earlier in the season. But I'm not 100% sold on either one of my picks. But that's what it is. That's what it's gonna be. Like usual during Sunday, man. Check Fred and I out. We're both going to be on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever you need us to be. Holler at us, and we will talk some football with you. You know how to find us. We've given you those handles enough. But I don't know. Maybe it's some new people listening, Fred. Let us know where they can find you on Twitter on Sunday.
You can find me on Twitter, Fred Perdue CFB. I don't know. It might be 0 Dark 30. It's real deal time now. It might be 0 Dark 30.
That is true. You're probably just starting the Fred during the NFC game. I fully understand that. So we'll hit Fred up for the NFC matchup. You can hit me up for both because I'm out of rooting interest like I was for the past couple of weeks. But you can hit me on Twitter at DevMacWR Sports or on Twitter at War Room Sports or on the War Room Sports Facebook page or the War Room Sports Game Time group on the GroupMe app. So we're here. Championship weekend in the NFL. Can't wait. You know how we do. This is another episode of Cover 2 with McMillan and Perdue, episode number 44 to be exact. And from Perdue, I'm McMillan. Like we always tell you guys around this time, don't accept mediocrity. Be steadfast in the war against ignorance. And we'll see you jumps on top. Peace.
Going up to LaFell. Touchdown. The big screen. Sanchez over the middle. Touchdown. Play action. Cutler wide open. Sanzenbacher.
War Room Sports, www.warroomsports.com. What? Ain't no more to it.